it's all about context. And I think right now people are still trying to get their head around it. And Paul and I felt that there's just such a deluge of information that we had to find a way to succinctly put it all together, tell the narrative, and help people get dialed into a more accurate context of what's happening and really what's going to happen, what we're up against.
And Liberty Man, what you're saying is so important. I want you to elaborate on this. I'm going to get Owen's take, and I'm going to get Paul Wittenberger's take on it. It's an admitted psychological warfare tool for those that don't know. It's really trauma-based mind control to tell people one thing 1 minute, another thing another, and finally you just shut off critical thinking. And people don't remember that they said just a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, the people that are now president and vice president, that I would never take this shot, don't take it, you shouldn't trust it, or we'll never make people take shots, we'll never have mandates. That's just not what Americans do. And so all of this, again, is part of that psychological warfare operation. Or Reuters and others saying there is no fake White House at the executive office building across the street. Fact check last week. Biden is at the Oval Office. When they show it as a press conference room in the executive office building, why do they do that? It's to train you that you're going to be lied to, and that's the way it is. They're not just, making a mistake here, making a mistake there. This is true warfare. But this film, people around the office have seen it, and like, wow, this is really powerful. They're like, you made this? And I'm like, no, it isn't really an Alex Jones film. I helped produce it some and get it done, and I'm in it and, voiced it and things. But no, it's Paul Wittenberger and the guy that funded it, Liberty Man, because it's made for the general public. It's also very good to watch, but it's for people to remind them of how they were manipulated and lied to. And then that will really take them out of the trance to then see the cycle continuing. But if you're always caught off balance in the new thing, well, then they've got you. And they brag about that. They talk about that.
Alex, I would say, though, that it is very much your film. 12 years ago, I woke up through bumping into your show sort of on accident in the iTunes library while I was at work one day. And I was blown away by what I heard. I didn't believe it. I took notes. I went home at night. I did Google searching. I went and bought books. I watched all your documentaries. And I kind of was blown away by a lot of it. And I listened to you cover the news and do your analysis. And it took me a couple years to kind of get dialed in. And I got to a point where I could look at things and say, I could read the news kind of the way you see the news. And it's important to have your lens on it, in a sense where you understand the real power players in society. A lot of people think the buck stops with Joe Biden or the buck stops with Justin Trudeau. And that's just total hogwash. So to really understand the power players and the way that they see the world and the way they think, the way that they see us, and the tools that they have available to them and how they use those tools. And of course, what's their agenda? What are they really marching toward? That takes a lot of research to get dialed in like that. We wouldn't have been able to make this film had it not been for really your leadership over the years.
Well, I was only reading Operation Lockstep and all their documents, and I'd seen documents they wrote in the 40s come true 30 years later, and stuff they wrote in the 60s come true 20 years later, and stuff they wrote in the 80s come true 15 years later. And they're talking about 90% of us being gone by 2030. And people think, wow, how are they going to do that? Well, now you see it. This is all a drill to stay locked down when they really start killing people. And as you guys are going to point out, I know in a future film, transhumanist angle really take over the body. Owen, you want to comment on this key point?
Well, and again, this is also epic, but to me, this documentary and this series of documentaries, if you will, is the counter to the lies of the New World Order that Klaus Schwab puts into his book saying, oh, we're the heroes of the earth. Once we extinct civilization and humanity, they'll read our books, they'll see our stuff, and they'll think we were the heroes, we're the givers of life on this planet, when the truth is they were the takers of life. That's why this documentary is so key, not just to watch tonight and to share, but to have the DVD, because eventually if we lose this war, which I hope we win, and I think we will, you won't be able to watch it anywhere. You won't be able to see anything on the internet. It'll all be totally controlled. And so this sounds epic, and I think this is what Liberty Man was just explaining in a kind of a different way, but This is all epic, and to the average person, they just don't even think it's going on. It's just some sort of Fantasyland game here, but this is real life. So I could sit here and I could talk to, the average sports fan or the average man in America, and I said, hey, Tom Brady. Like, yeah, Tom Brady, the great quarterback. I said, Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls, right? They say, he won 7 Super Bowls. I said, wow, that's epic, isn't it? That's pretty epic. 7 Super Bowls, most ever. That's epic. They saw it. They witnessed it. They know that happened. They don't know this is going on. This is epic to us.
They don't know they're being captured by a plan that doesn't just want to enslave them, but wants to take over their bodies if they're allowed to live and wants most people dead.
So once you realize that this is all actually happening and really going on, yeah, the battle for the future of the planet, for the future of humanity is pretty epic. It is happening right now. It's much more epic than a Super Bowl, but it's hard for people to know or understand that because they just don't even know what's going on. They're caught in the bread and circus. They're caught in the fake news media stream, mainstream media narratives, and they don't hear about this stuff. So that's another reason why I think this documentary.
Exactly. And a lot of folks are sharing this live feed right now. That's what we want. You are just as important as the filmmakers, as everybody in the film. It's like having lightning in a bottle. If you don't give it a connection to something, it goes nowhere. And so we need you to take this feed from Infowars.com or freeworldnews.tv or band.video and share it on your email, your text message, post it on Twitter, post it on YouTube, take clips out of it, get it out. Whatever you do, download it there as well. And yes, go to InfoWarsStore.com or COVIDland.com and get a copy of the hard DVD. I was on Steven Crowder last week. Steven's a really smart guy and a great guy. He makes a joke out of everything as the show's a comedy show. It's live, too. It's amazing. And he's like, oh, wow, are you going to have VHS next? Or I'm like, no, I'm going to have Laserdisc next. Because I was there giving him a copy of COVIDland. I was there giving him a copy of Endgame, explaining if you get a copy of COVIDland, you get a free copy of Endgame. And he was just making a joke. I'm not mad at him, but that's what Liberty Man had said a few weeks ago about the film coming out soon. People are like, well, what's this DVD? Well, I mean, it's like, oh, what's this book? They can digitally censor digital books. And we told you they do it. They're doing it. We're not against digital books. They're great. But if they're going to block this film, which I guarantee you they're going to try to put this out, I'm glad they are, the producers and we are on other mainline platforms, I bet they censor it. Well, we'll use that to help it get out more. But the point is we're going direct to you, believing in you and saying, share the link now. We're about to air it and download it or get the DVD and rip copies of it, burn it. It doesn't have copy protection. It's a zero code around the world. But Paul Wittenberger is also going to have showings around the U.S. with some added information, director's cut. And when part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and part 4 come out, part 5, it's so important. So Paul Wittenberg, I want to talk to you Wittenberger. I want to talk to you specifically about, because it's exciting for folks want to know, that people asked me today about it. My wife asked, what is part 2, 3, 4, and 5 going to be about? Because that's pretty exciting.
Right. So just so your audience knows, it's broken up into 5 different parts. The first part is the lockdown. It basically goes through what's happened up until today. Part 2 talks about the masks. Part 3 is the shot. Part 4 is the propaganda. And part 5 is the Great Reset. So it really goes into everything. And as it goes on, you get more into the end game. And you know what? You're talking about physical copies. I mean, it is so important to get physical copies nowadays because of all the censorship. I remember when I was a kid and my grandpa got the Clinton Chronicles on VHS, and he would just pop those in, make copies and copies and send them to all his friends. We're going to have to get back to that, where people are going to have to get physical copies and share this out to the masses. That's how we're going to get this out to people.
Oh, yeah. Before YouTube, even before Google Video, I mean, we're talking millions of copies of my films that I made myself that were just a shadow of the great work you've done. And it would reach people because people knew it was underground. They knew it was forbidden. So as long as we fight back, they're going to lose. They're going to fail.
Right. Right. And so, it's a 5-part series. Episode 2 is almost done. So that's just right around the corner. Yeah, stay tuned. The mask episode is coming up, and I think the mask episode is even more powerful than this first episode. So I think, hopefully each episode will get better and better and better. And I know the vaccine episode is even more powerful because what they're doing is just criminal. And so, there's at least a 20, 30 minute scene in the shot episode where, it shows injury after injury after injury. And so no rational or reasonable person after watching episode 3 will go out and get the shot. Because
that's right. This is a record of the war crimes, the Nuremberg violations, and this new Holocaust against humanity.
Right. Right. So, yeah, you know what, guys? Seriously, go to InfoWars store and get a copy. Get 2. Give one to your loved ones. Give one to your grandma. Give one to your mom.
Donate one to the library. A lot of folks are going and getting those from the library. People are getting their DVD players back out. I watch DVDs all the time. It's just like having a hard copy of a book and burn copies of it. Oh, and you're chomping to say something.
Well, I would say it's like an intellectual receipt. If you've ever seen the Book of Eli, it's, a guy basically treks across the desert to save the Bible because it's the last Bible on earth. Well, that's like what this is. Like, you never know when the internet may go down or when all this information may be gone, and you can maybe try to share it with somebody word of mouth, but they might not believe you. But if you have the book, if you have the intellectual receipt, if you have the DVD copy, that's like your intellectual receipt.
That's right. Libraries of pro-human info are going to be very valuable soon.
Yes, very valuable. And old tech as well.
Talk about that.
Well, right now you're seeing, in fact, I just decided too, because I'm such a movie fan, there's all these movies that they're starting to censor off the internet. There's all these movie scenes that you can't see on TV anymore.
Yeah, they're going back digitally and changing them all.
Yeah, they're rewriting all these.
Even Bill Nye the Science Guy doesn't say that there's different chromosomes for women now. They went and edited stuff from the 90s out.
They're taking Trump out of movies too, like Home Alone. So it's like, I want to be able to watch my favorite TV shows as they were before the censorship. I want to watch my favorite movie.
And it's literally that action of preserving real human culture. They can't survive their globalist takeover. It won't happen unless we just give up and let them override everything.
And you could say that books are irrelevant or outdated. Everybody still reads books. I still have books in my house. We got Klaus Schwab's book right here. So, and plus, it's just a part of the current info war, part of the.
You want to take physical receipt of things, and listen, we couldn't sell DVDs 8-9 years ago because now the cool thing is all digital, it's download. Now people get it, and I was like, I had like 20,000 copies of Endgame 6 months ago, and I go, why are we reordering this? I thought we have like 10,000 left. They go, no, it just sold like last week. I didn't even plug it, like 10,000 sold in a week. Now we've sold, I said 40,000. It's like 60,000 in the last few months. And it's really helping fund our operation, but that's why I lowered the price down just a few bucks, so we still make a few dollars, but that's it. Because people get it now. They're like, my God, this film all came true. Alex, you're so smart. No, the enemy is saying it all. It's quotes of them. It's not me.
Think about too, I mean, who knows? You maybe they leave this on the internet. Oh, but then you watch it and then, yes, I am from the CIA and the FBI. And I heard that you watched the COVID land documentary on the.
And you're actually facing years in prison for standing peace with the Capitol. But again, that's the intimidation. Like them saying they're going to send the FBI out. They are now to school board meetings. That's to intimidate you. It's because they're weak and they're a fraudulent globalist group that's out of control. Well, gentlemen, we're going to premiere your amazing film here in a few minutes. But I want you both to take 4 or 5 minutes or as much time as you want, Liberty Man, and then Paul, to really go over why this film is so important and how people need to share it.
Well, Paul, I'll jump in and go first, I guess, and I'll be quick. One thing that's been interesting that we've observed in our adult lives is how the textbooks push out a narrative to the next generation, and that narrative is quite polished, isn't it? And it's very simple, and it's all designed to lead people into very simple conclusions. We see this, of course, if you have kids in school. And you've been around long enough to see certain events unfold and you remember what happened and things that you saw on the news and whatnot, but then you go and compare to what's being taught to the kids. It's very different. They leave out a lot of details. So obviously when the last couple years goes down in the history books, we know the simple narrative that they're going to teach people. There was a novel coronavirus and it was this deadly pandemic and all the countries did the right thing and they're, on and on and on. But this is the true history of what went on, what we were told at the time, what the propaganda looked like and felt like, the expectations and the promises that were set by public servants. I don't call them officials. And also this whole idea that there's a diagnostic test. We really tackle that one. It's a PCR is not a diagnostic test. We really hit that out of the park. Even, what's going to happen, of course, with the statistics, they're going to give us all sorts of wild numbers about the mortality and how many people died of COVID. Well, we certainly tackle that issue, and we show what's really gone on with the fraud and the coding of mortality. And then we look into the real human impact that's gone on, which is going to, of course, be swept under the rug. But there are a lot of people that are suffering in silence in many different ways right now. And even people that think that, let's say, very liberal in their mindset, and they believe in all this stuff and they like it, and they're getting their vaccine and they've got their health pass, a lot of those people are not happy right now. They are on the edge. Things aren't going back to normal for them either, are they? So there are a lot of people that are suffering, that are even in full compliance and love all this tyranny. Inside, they're hurting as well. So this gets into the real human impact that's gone on, and I believe does a really nice job of characterizing some of the cost of playing along with all this nonsense.
Wow, that was powerfully said. Paul Wittenberger, I want you to have final comment before we go to the film here. And, I just saw the live feed number is 93,000 people tuned in, and that's great. I would imagine by the end, there'll probably be 500,000, 1 million watching. But if all of you simply hit your email list, if all of you simply hit your text messages, that's what the stuff that still gets out to people, and say, hey, this film's premiering, it's powerful, it's what they don't want you to know, it will again cause a chain reaction. It's amazing to have 93,000 people, 97,000 people now tuned in. You hit refresh, see we're there, but I want to get that up. I want to get that up to a couple 100,000, and then by 1 million by the end of the evening. And I want you all to download the film, and I want you all to then share it so that they even have more trouble. And I want you to share the link, because I don't know how long Band.video will be up. Hopefully 5 more years, hopefully forever. But they're breathing down our necks, folks, because we are hurting them very, very badly. You are hurting them, and they're hurting our children, so they deserve to have people stand up to them. This is information warfare. We're countering their lies with the truth. And what you were just saying, Liberty Man, is so key. When there was a school shooting up in a suburb of Dallas run by Democrats, and he shot 3 people, wounding them, and they wanted to create racial division or whatever, so they were hyping it. As soon as it turned out it was a black guy shooting, black kids, they shut it down and they released the guy on bond the day after he shot people. That's liberal DAs here in Austin. They release people, armed robbers that attack people. Okay, and again, this is a guy attacking other black people. So when that happens, they play it down or whatever. But imagine if somebody else shot people, they'd make it racial. That's just a small example of how they accentuate things and hurt people. But let's take the hundreds of thousands that have died conservatively from these deadly shots, and then they try to censor those deaths on all the major tech media, but then they hype it up when somebody who didn't have the vaccine dies of COVID, they claim. So again, it's how they tell you when to care, and they tell you when to not care, when to flip your emotions on, when to flip them off, when this is causing worldwide lockdown, tens of millions to starve to death in places like Africa and Latin America, collapsing the world, causing all this pain, making suicide and drug abuse and alcoholism explode. And then they sit there, the very people that did this and cooked up the virus and released it and pose as our saviors, and the UN collects money to feed starving people when they don't feed them, by the way. They do photo ops, and that's it. It's just amazing that people like Paul Wittenberger's parents, they were real missionaries, and he's continuing now that missionary spirit here today. So we're going to play the film right now. Paul Wittenberger, you are the director and the guy really behind this all. So you go ahead and spend a few minutes, and then you start the film off for us.
Right. So, you know what, guys, this is so important to just share this video right now. And especially when the video comes out online on Band.video, make sure you share that everywhere. Put it on your social media accounts, send it out to your email list, get this out to all your loved ones, and make this thing go viral. Because you know what? The elite don't want you to watch this. This is the true events of what happened. So share it, share it, share it. I can't even stress that enough, because I really believe this will make a difference. And so let's change the world together and get this message out there. So yeah, let's watch it, Alex. And I really am looking forward to hearing people's feedback.
All right, here it is. COVID Land Part 1, The Lockdown. Here it is.